Okay, I'm just going to answer this question quickly. Will I do a video on disassociation? So, disassociation, everybody, is a protective mechanism that we all do to escape a traumatic situation. So, people who suffer from emotional trauma, abuse trauma, childhood trauma in particular, will all have ways to disassociate, and every single person is different, and how they experience this is different. So this is when one basically disassociates from their feelings, their emotions, their reality, and their body in some ways, and their thoughts. So it really is a good example of this would be daydreaming. So if you daydream a lot, or you find that you're off in la la land, which we all do, driving, walking, this is a form of disassociation. And it's not always a bad thing. It can be healthy. In fact, if you listen to Oprah's book called What Happened to You by her and Dr. Bruce Perry, she talks a lot about disassociation and how it's healing, right? So reading, walking, it's just our body's mechanism of protecting oneself. So if you have experienced significant trauma, especially in your childhood, you will probably find that you disassociate a lot. Now, often people don't realize they're disassociating. In fact, I had no idea I did this, which I do. So I've learned how to become more present in the moment and catch myself when I kind of go off into those little spurts of disassociation. Again, it looks very different for people. So I think this young lady who asked this question is somebody that experiences emotional numbness, yet she's not on an SSRI or an antidepressant. This would be a good example of disassociation because she feels numb. So again, it's our way of protecting ourselves from a traumatic experience. If you were someone that suffered from consistent ongoing trauma throughout your life, you will find coping mechanisms to protect yourself, and that will be often leaving your own body and going into a different state, almost catatonic in some cases, to protect yourself from the abuse that is going on or the situation. People who suffer from neglect, especially childhood neglect, childhood verbal and emotional abuse, as well as sexual abuse, will often disassociate. You'll see a lot of people who have sexual abuse that disassociated through it. And it is very much a self-protective mechanism, which can also lead to amnesia and not being able to remember those traumatic events, and your brain blocks it out. So I hope that gives some insight on disassociation, but it is a huge component to trauma, and it's often what causes us not to be able to function properly in our everyday life because we're disassociating so frequently, yet we don't recognize that we're doing it. So I hope that shed a little bit of light for you, and that is sort of dissociation in a nutshell.